Good morning, Austin, Texas. Natasha Harper-Madison here with an update on our current weather situation. It is the 18th of February, and we are going on almost a solid week of this. So we brought on some experts to talk to us this morning about what are the newest updates, what departments are doing what community efforts are taking place, what's going on over in District 2. We have Councilmember Vanessa Fuentes with us this morning. And I obviously will give you some District 1 updates, and just hopefully we can spend a little bit of time this morning going question and answer, because I know y'all have some, and we'll do our best to get them answered this morning. So we got some folks from Austin Energy, Austin Water, hopefully some folks from our public health will be able to join us in a little bit, and then our Homeland Security Emergency Management. And without further ado, I think we should just start rolling people up. To some degree, I can see what y'all can, so I'll just introduce folks as they come in. We have our Director of Austin Homeland Security Emergency Management, Juan Ortiz, is with us. Good morning, Juan. Thank you for joining us. I can't hear you. We also have a council member for District 2, Vanessa Fuentes, is joining us this morning as well.
Hi, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you so much for convening this conversation today. It is much needed. As you know, this is the fourth day for our community, and many households are without power. And I'm happy to be here with you and having this conversation directly with staff from various departments and entities, so that we can get some answers to many questions that are top of mind for our communities. And I just want to appreciate your leadership and all that you're doing to keep our community informed. I'm really proud that you're our Mayor Pro Tem, and grateful for all that you're doing.
Thank you very much, and so much mutual respect and appreciation. I know we're all just doing our best, and with that, Juan has probably taken more calls from me in this last couple of days than I've given to my mom all year. And so I just would like for you to be able to give us a quick overview of what it is that y'all do, and what you're working on, and sort of what's top of mind, and then answer any questions that roll in. But what I'm thinking is, actually give me one moment. What I'm thinking is, Juan, if you could go ahead and start us off. I know you have to get back. It looks like there's a busy room behind you. And so we don't want to take too much time from Command Central. So if you want to get us started. I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Hey, so you know what we'll do though? We can go ahead and bring a few more folks on while you work on your sound. Hi there.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ana Bryan Borja, Assistant Director at Austin Water, your city's water and wastewater utility.
Thank you. Looks like Stuart joined us as well.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm Stuart Riley, Austin Energy Chief of Staff.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. And then we have Ruben Cantu.
Buenos dias. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And then Janice Bookout.
Hi, great to see you guys. Community Resilience Trust co-founder with Ruben Cantu. Great to be here.
Thanks everybody for joining us. It looks like Juan might still be working on his audio, in which case I think maybe we'll shoot straight on over to Ana and have her give us an update.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Let me share some updates on behalf of Austin Water. We've obviously been going through a very difficult, challenging situation. I want to thank you as the community for everything you're doing to help us get through this. As of Thursday morning, our treatment plants are operating in a stable mode. So we've got our water treatment plants back online, but we are facing significant challenges to restoring water distribution throughout the system. That is our focus today. We issued a citywide boil water notice last night, and that notice continues due to the low pressure that we have had in our water distribution system. All customers are asked to vigorously boil their water before using it for drinking and cooking. We have posted instructions for how to do that. If anyone needs tips on how to boil water to a safe level, that's on our Twitter feed. And we're working with our city's emergency ops center to address customer needs. Starting with critical customers, we must restore service to our hospitals and our power plants so that those key community services can continue. We understand that customers are suffering right now, that many folks have low water pressure. Some folks do not have water, and so we understand those impacts. We're working with our partners in the Emergency Operations Center to develop a plan to address those unmet needs. We don't have an estimated timeline when full service will be restored to the community, but we will certainly keep council members and Mayor Pro Tem apprised of that. I will share with you instructions for how to reach Austin Water. We have a customer intake form now where folks can submit their water needs online, and I can share instructions for how to cut off water to your home if you have a burst pipe. If you do have water, we are also urging you to conserve. Please limit your use to essential needs. Delay anything that you can, like washing a load of laundry if at all possible. Please delay so that we as a community can bring our water pressure quantities and amounts back up to where they need to be. Lastly, it's a statewide challenge. Other water utilities are facing the same, and we're coordinating with our partners to hear what they're doing and how we can learn from them. Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Fuentes, anything else you'd like me to touch on?
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Councilmember Fuentes, I'll let you get us started. Real quick, though, I'd like to remind the general public that this is a great opportunity for you to be throwing your questions into the comment section, because we can pull those up and get them answered in real time. And worst case scenario, we'll make sure to go back and answer all these questions later. But if you have questions, feel free to engage with us. Anybody who's on the screen can answer your questions, and we can connect with them outside of this forum to answer your questions as well. So, Councilmember Fuentes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anna, thank you so much for being here with us today. I think the question that I'm getting quite often from our community is, when will water be restored? Many households are without water. I know you touched on this just a little bit, but I think I just want to reemphasize the timeline of when people can expect to have their water restored and where can they go for updates.
Yes, we do not yet have a timeline for when water will be fully restored. I understand what difficult news that is for folks to hear. In some parts of the city, we do have water flowing, but it is not a stable situation yet. And what we need folks to understand is that when those water lines go out of service, there's a process. It's a very methodical process by which we have to refill those lines and bring them back into service. We also have to pass testing to ensure that the water is safe for them to use. I apologize that I don't have that timeline for you right now, but please follow Austin Water Twitter. We're at Austin Water, and as soon as we do have those timelines, we will share them.
Do we know, is there, just one more question, do we know, because the question I'm getting is people want to know why their water went out?
Yes, so the research that we are doing with our engineering staff and other operational staff indicates multiple causes. We have, hundreds of thousands of households that were asked to drip the water from their faucets. We've never asked folks to do that for such an extended period of time. So we believe we lost a significant amount of water just through the extended dripping of faucets. We also know that we had significant transmission mains. Transmission mains are the very large pipelines that run under the streets and carry water to neighborhoods, and if one of those breaks, we can have significant quantities of water that were lost. And so these things together, along with challenges, some of our infrastructure lost power and had to go offline. And so all of these things brought the amount of water that was available to reach our customer households, brought that down. And when the water quantity goes down, the pressure in the system also goes down. So we have to restore the quantities and the pressure to distribute it to households.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And then, along those lines of dripping, people are asking specifically, is there additional risk to their pipes freezing if they stop dripping?
So this question of dripping has come up. Thank you for raising it. Right now, what we're facing under normal circumstances, if we were not facing a water shortage, we would be encouraging folks to drip faucets, but we're weighing the risks of losing water to the entire community because of the situation I just described, and folks dripping their faucets to avoid pipes freezing. Now, as we see the temperatures rising beyond the deep freeze conditions we were in, those 9-degree, 5 degrees that we never experience in Austin, we began recommending yesterday that people stop dripping their faucets. We do have a set of instructions on how customers can turn off their water and empty the pipes so that they are at less risk of their pipes freezing and bursting. And I can also post those instructions. We would encourage you, if you are turning off your water and then emptying your hose, for example, to use a bucket and catch that water so that you can boil it and use it for household needs. I'm not sure if I'm able to post in the chat.
Kim will get in touch with you. Don't worry. We'll get all
Perfect.
the information and then we'll post it all in the chat. It's been a great way to be able to deliver information.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for spending some time this morning talking to our community. This is information that we all really need to have. And I know you have another engagement. So we'll say thank you for joining us and be safe. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. I think we have another guest joining us, if I'm not mistaken. Good morning,
Hello.
Councilmember Kassar.
Good to see y'all.
You want to introduce yourself real quick?
No, yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt the conversation.
No worries.
From City Council District 4, and I know how precious our time is here with the Chief of Staff from Austin Energy and the head of our EOC. So I'll let them go on, and happy to answer any questions in this really awful time.
Thanks, Councilmember. So that actually, Anna left us in a really good spot for a segue into Austin Energy. So I asked the question about people dripping their pipes to prevent the freezing of the pipes. But, another recurring question is, how are people supposed to boil water with no electricity? If we could roll right into that question, and then, you could give us whatever information you think our constituency to hear.
Good morning. Thank you again, everybody. I'm Stuart Riley. I'm the Chief of Staff at Austin Energy. And certainly we don't want people boiling water who are out of electricity, using any sort of devices in their homes. But just to give you an update, Austin Energy is currently responding to 2 overlapping critical situations in regard to people's power. We responded to the State Electric Grid Manager, ERCOT, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, and their requirements to shed load, which means to turn off customers essentially, to prevent a statewide grid collapse. This was because of a lack of available power from generators to be able to serve customers. At the same time, we're responding to the effects of several ice storms. But the situation is improving, and Austin Energy has been able to restore power to thousands of customers overnight. As of right now, we have over 87% of customers with power. ERCOT is not currently mandating outages and has allowed us to work through the night to energize numerous circuits and get power flowing. This is a very rapidly evolving situation, and restoration depends on ERCOT's direction. Austin Energy is responding to ongoing requests, and we're doing everything we can to meet requirements while also getting power back to the community. Please continue to conserve power if you do have power on. For those who don't have power, please turn off devices and leave only one light on. This will make it a lot easier for our crews to be able to restore these loads that have been down for so long. And just to let everybody know, we're keeping in constant communication with the community through our social media channels, daily news conferences, and you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Austin Energy. we know there's a lot of suffering going on and a lot of frustration, and we're doing everything possible to restore power safely as fast as we can.
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem, I think you're muted.
Thank you. I was wondering. Councilmember Fuentes was able to start us off last time. Would you like to start us off, Councilmember Casar? Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Riley, and thanks to all of the really hardworking public employees who've been working through the night to get power on to people. Do we have a timeline or a sense of timeline of when all of the ERCOT-directed outages will be out, will be back on? And then is there going to be some level of transparency around whose outage might go even longer, not because of an ERCOT outage, but because of damage to infrastructure? Just because I think our communities need to know how long, if their power is going to be out for much, much longer, they need to be able to plan for that. And I don't think everybody knows whether they're part of an ERCOT mandated outage that might end, that might get fixed, versus some sort of damage that could keep them out for longer. So how do we get that information to people?
As of right now, we are trying to restore everybody who has been part of the ERCOT mandated outages. That's a long process at this point because those loads have been pulled for so long, and we're experiencing what is referred to as cold load pickup. And that's a phenomenon where there's so much energy usage on the grid that comes on at one time that these circuits will trip back off. So what ends up being required is that we need to restore power small sections at a time. And that's because the ERCOT requirement was so great at the very outset that we had to shut off so much customer load that we were not able to keep a rotation going because we had maxed out our ability to rotate onto circuits. So now we have this cold load pickup issue, and that's causing it to take longer. And then as we restore some of those customers, and we're out in the field, it's very icy. As you know, there are a lot of downed trees, vegetation, things like that are on power lines. And we're getting those issues cleaned up and fixed as fast as we can and as safely as we can. So our crews are working as hard as they can. I don't have a timeline to give for everybody for 100% restoration, but we think we're going to make significant progress today, continuously as we shoot for these customers who have been out the longest, and for these larger outages, we're doing it at the same time where we're looking for those who have been out the longest. There might be some, as you say, there might be other reasons for the outage, fallen limbs and icing of equipment. And so we're dealing with that at the same time that we're bringing up the ERCOT mandated outages with that kind of more tedious or longer process because of the cold load pickup.
Thank you. I hear that, and I think what could be really useful after this, if you could get back with us and the council members on this call, because council members Fuentes and Harper-Madison have been just so great at getting information out, is if we could say, these are the areas generally that are ERCOT outages, and we are trying to get all of those back on by tonight or whatever time it is that we can. Just some transparency around which ones the ERCOT mandated outages were and when we're trying to get those back online. And then if you aren't in that list, then you can assume that you're likely a smaller infrastructure problem, and that maybe that gets fixed quickly or that may take longer. But it's just right now people don't know if they're a part of the ERCOT mandated one or if there's damage. And if we as the city at least know which one the ERCOT ones are and could put that out there, then folks can better plan. So if we could get that information, if it's possible, and you can tell us now if that's just not possible information for us to get, but it could be really useful for the community to know if that's possible.
Yeah, I understand that, and I will do whatever we can to be able to communicate that going forward. Either way, whether it's an ERCOT mandated outage that we are in the process of restoring right now, or if it is a weather related outage, we're restoring those as quickly as we possibly can right now. And both of those are now in a manual process that we're trying to address. But our hope is that before tonight, most of those who are without power right now will be restored.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fuentes, did you have any additional questions for Stuart?
Just one, because I believe in the power of repeating communication, just so that we're really clear on what the expectations are, Stuart. So on this, because we have families that are now 81 hours without power. Jacqueline Hernandez is posting on our live stream saying, at Onion Creek at Legends Way, 81 hours without power. You touched on how Austin Energy is prioritizing neighborhoods that have been without power, and they will be one of the first to be restored with their power. Your last comment said we should know more by the end of tonight. Can you again emphasize the timeline for households who have been days without power on when they can expect to have their power fully restored?
Yes, and I wish I could give you a very firm answer on that. Unfortunately, it's very specific to each area. In some areas, we have distribution lines going into very treacherous areas with steep terrain, rocks and trees that are iced up, and it takes longer. There might be trees that have fallen over onto poles in those areas. There could be all sorts of hazards in those areas. So I can't give an overall timeline, and it's very specific to each area. But again, we think we're going to make a lot of progress today.
Thank you, Stuart. I really appreciate you being here, being able to offer those responses and being candid. That's one thing that none of us on the call are strangers to or recognize the importance of right now. We all just have to get the information out as accurately and as candidly as possible, even if sometimes the news is dismal, frankly. And I think, I don't have to tell you, there's a lot of very rightful frustration in the community. Just because, there's just not enough information. And even with more information, it doesn't make you any warmer. So folks are rightfully frustrated, and we're just doing our best to make sure that they have the information that they need. So we really want to say, we understand and appreciate the level of difficulty of the job it is that y'all are doing at Austin Energy. And we thank you for coming on. We didn't get an opportunity to touch on one thing that I had hoped we would. But maybe we'll add that to the list of things that we do after this. My hope is we'd encourage folks to ask us their questions in the chat, but it looks like we might not have an opportunity to do a live answer to those questions. So what I'm thinking we'll do is we'll take the opportunity to have my staff, the District 2 staff and the District 4 staff get together, and we'll compile those questions. We'll answer those questions. We'll get them forwarded to the necessary department if that's what needs to happen. But I can commit that we'll get y'all's questions answered. They'll either be presented here or in another way, another form. But we'll definitely let you know where the complete compilation of the answers to those questions live. I know we have a couple more folks, but I can't see anything. I wonder. Oh, there's everybody. And so I wonder, this would be a really great opportunity to move over to Director Ortiz, in which case, Stuart, I don't see any reason for you to stick around. Hopefully you can offer us the opportunity to be in communication with you and the energy folks as we answer those questions for our constituents.
Thank you, definitely. Will do.
Thank you. We appreciate you taking some time and coming and talking with us this morning.
Thanks so much.
Good morning, Director Ortiz. I know we were having some problems earlier. Have you given it a shot again?
And yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, apologize. It was technical difficulties. Apparently, it turned out to be operator error. But I think we got that taken care of. I'm a pleasure to be here. I'm calling to you. I'm talking to you all from the Emergency Operation Center for Austin and Travis County. This is the center where, in the event of an emergency, all of the community agencies, both from the city and the county and from the community, come together so that we can coordinate, making sure that we're all singing from the same sheet of music, and we function as more as the coordinating component. So the way we described it is we have an orchestra made up of all of the different partners and players, and then we just coordinate the orchestra. We've been working here around the clock since Thursday. In fact, several of us, including myself, have not been home since then, and we're here working to make sure that we identify problems and come up with solutions and resolve them, and we're able to provide services to all of our citizens here in the city of Austin and Travis County. I'm happy to answer any questions. Um,
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, I know that I've been working a lot with you, and I know my colleagues have, the folks with the Community Resilience Trust have, in which case I think this might be a good opportunity to let Janice and or Ruben with Community Resilience Trust really weigh in on some of the questions that y'all are hearing this morning at the, highest level, because just like with the other pros that were on the line, we can ask many, many, many more questions later. But for now, for the folks watching, for the folks that are doing all that heavy lifting, all the community members and organizations working around the clock, are there some questions that y'all might have for Director Ortiz?
Yeah, sure. And thank you so much. And I just want to give props to the incredible organizations that have been working together with us to, put people in hotels and, address all kinds of needs. And I mean, the effort is unbelievable. And it's just incredible. So we'll pop a link in the chat about where you can find us and support the effort. But, in particular, Austin Area Urban League, Survive to Thrive, We Can Now, Austin Mutual Aid, DAWA, Mobile O's and Fishes, Maximizing Hope, Gladiator Consulting. I mean, just like so many groups, so many more than that. But yeah, my question, a couple questions. First of all, I understand it as temperatures are warming today and tomorrow. And so what we're going to see is likely more pipes breaking over the next couple of days. And so but then more access to food. So people are experiencing a lack of access to food, and of course the power, and they've been cold. They're going to be less cold, but then they're still without food, and they're still without water, and more people will see less access to water because as the pipes thaw, some will burst. So is my understanding correct that we're going to shift here pretty soon from a cold emergency to a food and water emergency, even beyond where we've been so far? Is that my understanding of the situation? Is that correct?
Yes, and we call that basically cascading effects from disasters. Right now, we're focusing our efforts to see what we can do to make sure that we manage the impacts from the loss of power, so ensure that people have heat. We're looking at what can we do to ensure that people have water. And then the next phase of this disaster is going to be, how do we ensure that people have access to food, right? And so we're working with the local grocery stores, the HEBs, Walmarts, and also the manufacturers of water, and so to see what we can do to secure water and bottle water and bring it into the area, secure food and bring it into the area. We'll be working with all those different agencies to make sure that we have plans and resources to bring to our community. It's not going to be an easy task because this is a statewide disaster that has stretched the limited resources of the entire state. So we're working in conjunction with the state, with the federal government, and with the private sector, that can so that we can come up with solutions and bringing in resources from other states into the area. That takes a little bit of time. So we want to make sure that we conserve as much as we possibly can to allow us time to bring those resources from outside. And then we're also working with the local grocery stores so that we have a better idea of what is it that they need from us, so that they're able to open up quickly and be able to allow folks to come into the grocery stores and buy food. There may be still some limited access to those that may not be able to travel, and we're going to be working with the different community organizations so that we're able to support them to get food out to those residents that may have difficulty getting out of their homes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, may I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, we're working on our side to just get as many volunteers together. We have a later today. We're going to be launching an online tool to match volunteers to people in need more effectively. We've been dispatching more directly, and our capacity is beginning to get stretched. So we're going to launch this tool soon. And Ruben, if you would pop the note in the chat about where they can find our Community Resilience Trust CARES CRT CARES page has information in it. But and then we'll be linking to that tool later from that page. But I guess my other question is, you mentioned the water resources. Do you think that we'll be able to have like larger water distribution? Maybe in tanks or something like that. Is that a real possibility? I know that I know that that's been worked on to some extent. And then also, is there a way that we could use a distributed model and get food to people more efficiently? Maybe by using this tool or coordinating on that, so that we use our resources as quickly as possible to get food to people.
Yes, and I can tell you that we've been working on those efforts. Right now, we're continuing to secure. We have secured large volumes of water from outside of the state, and once we have better timelines of when those starts, when that's going to arrive, we'll be reporting on how that's going to be done. As well as we're securing what water is available within our region, and so we're working on trying to make sure that as much as we possibly acquire and be able to prioritize to those who are greatest need gets out there very quickly. Ultimately, the plan here is not just to look at what the city and the county are doing, but how can we engage everybody in the community so that everybody helps out in this disaster. I can tell you that we still are in need of volunteers, and there's lots of different opportunities for everybody to help. We need to just make sure that we're focusing the right help in the right areas and prioritize that as best as we possibly can. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be challenging, but I think we can pull together. We all continue to work together.
So I have a question. Mr. Ortiz, can you speak to the coordination between the different community networks and nonprofits, ADRN, ourselves, Red Cross, several other organizations, to get us together to mobilize together in a streamlined way? So there's a lot of need, and now we're seeing a lot of need from our friends in Del Valley. And food distribution is going to be a big issue, especially moving after the temperatures go up and the ice melts. We'll need to figure out how to coordinate. Can you tell us about what the plan or the recovery process is in the next couple of days so that we can, as a community, like you asked for, can start organizing and streamlining the process? What do you envision as a plan for us to move forward?
That's really a good question. So now that the roads are and the temperatures are kind of getting less cold, and and the driving conditions are improving a little bit, and I'm looking at cameras here that are in front of us in the Emergency Operations Center, we'll be able to see more of the sand product that is staying on the ground and less of the ice. There's still some hazard driving conditions, and we will experience some of that tonight as well. But as that situation improves, it's allowing for the community partners that are out there to be able to be more engaged in the disaster. And so what we're going to be working on is working with Central Texas Food Bank to ensure that we have a plan of attack of how we're going to make food available. We're going to be working with all the different agencies that we've been working already, including CRT, ADRN, Red Cross, the Independent School District, and other independent school districts that are in our community, to see how we can use their facilities, use their volunteers, use whatever resources that are donated or that we acquire, and be able to provide them, give our citizens access to food, access to water, access to information. Because sometimes, you have some members of our community that have lost power for a long period of time, and now we live in a time where folks, if they do have still have a phone in their home, it comes through internet. And so if you don't have power in your home, then you lose your local phone in your home, or you transition to a cell phone. But if you're not able to recharge that cell phone, then you lost the way to communicate with the rest of the world. So we're looking at establishing charging centers and the different shelters that we're using. The challenge is that those facilities may also suffer from burst water lines, or they may lose power, and so we may have to shift into different locations. But what we're trying to do is establish resiliency centers that will be co-located with our shelters, so that people can have a place to go and charge up their devices, get information, have access to food and water, as well as have locations where we can have people drive through and collect food and water. And that will be coming in the next in the next day or so, as we're able to get more organized and be able to get more resources in from the outside. That will buy us time to allow our grocery stores be able to get back in operations, and be able to restock, and be able to allow the regular process to kind of to function as best as possibly can. Until then, we're working directly with the major distributors of food and water, to ensure that gets prioritized, and make sure that we have access for everybody and throughout the community and our surrounding communities as well. Because
thank you, Director Ortiz. Real quick, I know that Councilmember Casar has a very important water and food drop-off operation that he's got to get to. So I want to make certain that we have the opportunity to thank him for joining us this morning, and to address the folks. I know that they appreciate being able to hear from us all. So anything you want to leave them with before you're able to check back in?
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, really appreciate you getting everyone together. I think transparency and communication really does create safety for people. So thank you for hosting this. Good to see you, Councilmember Fuentes, and Director Ortiz, and everybody on the call, and folks at CRT. Thanks for what you're doing in the community. Please do share the resource guide that I've posted on my page, and lots of resources on the other elected officials' pages here. And make sure to check in on your fellow community members. I do have to go. Like you said, we're doing some food and water drops over at our warming centers, and we're going to be doing everything we can to take care of each other in this crisis. The people of Austin have really stepped up in an incredible way, and we have to keep doing that. So I've got to go, but thank you for hosting this.
Thank you for coming out. We appreciate it very much. So Director Ortiz, real quick, I want to make certain that we're able to get everybody's questions answered. Can we just, as we get our teams together to compile the questions, can we be able to rely on getting through to your office to get some of the answers for those questions? All right, that'd be great. Thank you. I appreciate
Definitely.
it. And then if you could get us as much information as you're able to about these resilience centers, the who, what, when, where, why, that would be very helpful. In fact, if we could do an offline conversation when we're done here with some of the folks who are online currently, that would be really great. That way we're not repairing the plane while we fly it, and we can just give the fully functional plane to our constituents after.
Definitely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Councilmember Fuentes, did you have any other questions before we let Director Ortiz get back to flying the plane? I'm on planes today.
No, thank you, Director Ortiz. You right in the last part of your comment about working to leverage our warming centers that we've established in vulnerable areas of Austin. Make sure that we can co-locate the resiliency centers with the warming centers. that's such a great idea. I'm glad that you're already working on that. And so you touched on the question that I had. Thank you.
Thank you. I retired from the Coast Guard, so I use more of a. We're on the way on the Coast Guard cutter. We just try to figure out how big of a Coast Guard cutter do we have.
Well, thank you for everything. We really do appreciate your service to your community, and we'll continue to be in touch. And you can consider us all resources as well. So we look forward to continuing to collaborate to keep our community afloat.
Thank you. And I just want to say one thing. I really want to thank all of you, because all of you have contacted me, and not just with a problem, but also with a potential solution. And that's exactly what we're looking for. We see all the problems. We know the problems, but we were looking for solutions. And the solutions, it's got to not just rely on the city or the county, but on the community, that we can all come together and come up with solutions. We'll get through this.
I agree. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you and your time.
Thank you.
So Janice and Ruben, I'm guessing that collectively y'all have probably had about 3 hours of sleep since last Friday.
3.5.
So I won't keep you long.
Yeah,
So
it's been a
Ruben,
lot.
I was hoping you could. I was hoping for folks who aren't familiar. They certainly will be after this effort, but for folks who aren't familiar with Community Resilience Trust and how it all started, and where y'all are at right now in regards to this emergency response. Ruben, I remember when you and I had, one of the first conversations several months ago about the effort, and it's one of those things where it's sort of like Director Ortiz just said, we know what the problems are. That's not the question. We know what those are. It's about solutions. And so, having an organization with equity as one of its primary reasons for existing is what we need. And, we need lots of them, and we need lots more in the way of community-driven resilience initiatives and efforts. And so if y'all could just give a quick overview and then talk about where you're at now and how the community can join in on this really beautiful collective effort towards, community care.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Harper-Madison. We appreciate the time and inviting us here to the space. We have been having this conversation for the past several years since the Richard, Florida study came out that said Austin is the most inequitable or disparate city or economically segregated city for its size in its country. And, we continue to do that. We continue wanting to drive a creative class and really creative people, and people who often are not well-resourced or privileged. And what happens is with this activity, there's this brewing of inspiration, but it attracts new people and it pushes people out, and the disparity grows. And we were standing in a seminar one day, Janice and I shouted out a vision of saying, what if we could make Austin the most equitable city? What would it take to do that? And from there grew a seed that Janice has been working on this work for many years in disaster response, from Rita to Harvey to Katrina. And my work is obviously as an East Austinite, trying to help elevate the community and helping them really get to a point where we can actually have parity by teaching entrepreneurship and economic development opportunities for ourselves. That being said, as we brought these two initiatives and visions together, we said, how could we make Austin the most equitable city? And so CRT was born on March 14th, the day after the mayor shut everything down from the COVID pandemic. And we've been going strong ever since. And so we decided this, that CRT is not me and Janice. CRT is a collective community of organizations focused on equity who have joined around this vision. And the key element to make this happen is trust. And the formula for trust that we have is open and transparent communication, consistency, and congruency. And so through that formula, we've been able to bring people together through many different schools of thought, from trauma healing to design thinking to disaster response and resilience, all combined to be able to say, what can we all bring together, deduplicate efforts, and be able to move in an efficient manner so that we can actually have real impact and move the needle of equity towards more parity. So Janice?
Yeah, thanks. So I want to also add the primary lens that we bring is an anti-racist lens. And in particular, and what I mean by that is, and especially during disasters, we see systemic racism and how it plays out in many, many inequities. And disasters amplify those inequities as institutions fail. So there's a baseline set of inequities when institutions are operating as designed because of the way it's designed. And then on top of that, when the institutions fail in a disaster, then all of those get amplified. And so on the one hand, we have the opportunity to offset that in the immediate, to take care of people and prioritize who we know are being left out. And how we know that is all this collective view that is coming together to look from many lenses at who's being left out and how are we going to take care of those people first. And then beyond that, we also have an opportunity to right there in that moment, leverage a new future. So how are we going to use this very opportunity right now to fix the broken system so that moving forward, the baseline is elevated and we just keep ratcheting it up from there and there and there. And I want to acknowledge some more organizations that have been with us through the long haul. Central Texas Allied. I mean, I mentioned some earlier. Some of the ones I mentioned earlier are new, but like Houston Tillotson University, Central Texas Allied Health, LULAC, El Buen, GAVA's been participating a lot. There's many others that I'm leaving out, but it's like, and you can hear all about that on the CRT page, but it's just so many different organizations working together. It's been truly inspiring, especially the intent to work together and the intent to align on what's needed moving forward. And that's the other thing I want to say is I think we have a reckoning. Like, I think we have a reckoning here to deal with. This was a massive failure. And it's not for me to blame any one person. I think we have a failure by design. And I think in the future, we can use this opportunity to predict how we're going to fail and offset it in advance. And I really want to make sure we do that. And I also want to use this opportunity since we have so many we have so many unhoused people that got to hotels. We had the amazing contribution from someone who was unhoused at the very beginning of this particular effort that with us that people will not go to shelters. Many, many unhoused people will not go to shelters, even if it's freezing cold. So we organized an effort among several partners to get them in hotels. And those partners did that work and we helped coordinate that. But they got into hotels and that was hundreds of people and that would have been on the street and would have refused shelter. We asked first. And so those folks, I don't want them to go back on the street if they don't want to go. When it warms up, I want them to go into semi-permanent and then ultimately permanent housing. And how can we do that? Like, I want to see that happen. I want to see that.
I'm going to jump in here real quick. That's one of the reasons that I know Community Resilience Trust, the initiative, the organization, the movement will sustain because of that power, that energy, that in-depth foresight. And we're talking about our future. And so I really appreciate that we're going to have this opportunity to continue to conceptualize, like, what does it look like when we take this once in a lifetime opportunity to really seize the moment to get all these things that are literally breaking all around us to get it right from the start, from the foundation up. But for today, I want us to focus on how are people getting water? How are we getting water to people? What systems can they rely on? Who can they call? Who's going to help with food and water and diapers and period products and formula? And so those are the questions that people have right now. So I want to make sure that we are not losing sight of the right now. What things can people give right now through CRT? What things can people get right now through CRT? If you could touch on a few of those real quick, Ruben or Janice, and
Ruben,
then we can move into, if we could start rather with water. If y'all have or know of or are working with any organization initiative that is getting water out right now, let's speak on that. And then let's talk about, I know one of the things that Community Resilience Trust was already doing, putting together that matching system with cars and capacity and drivers, et cetera. And then the firefighters coming in with all their 4x4s and adding to that list in terms of capacity. So Do we need more vehicles for deliveries? Do we need more hands for what do we need in order to get more water out right now? And then what other things can people be looking to y'all for to either receive or to give?
Thank you very much.
3 minutes.
Mayor Pro Tem, the biggest need right now is we need some more volunteers to staff up and train in the back end office admin to be able to manage. We have a growing list of drivers. Last count, I think we had like maybe 75. It's going to continue to grow. It's a big city that we need to expand to, and a lot of people need help. We want to thank the support of Austin Mutual Aid and their community, their circle. We're interfacing together and supporting one another and dispatching drivers and sharing across the way. We have drivers that are delivering food and resources, and we have centers that we're propping up, but we also need more drivers to come on board and support that effort. So we put a link in there, so if you want to support and sign up and volunteer. Yes, we're still sourcing more places for water. So if the community does know where we can get more water, that is very valuable and needed information. Two, we also need the ability to coordinate with hotels, and we need volunteers to help staff those hotels to liaise with our unhoused residents and the management so that we can make sure that their well-being is taken care of. And we also need just back-end support and onboarding new volunteers and social media. More importantly, we also want to make sure we drive home that we are fundraising for this effort, making sure that many of our partners who are in this collective are able to, do the work that they do. This is how we set it up as an umbrella effort, and then distributing the funds and the donations where they need it most. Right now, we need to make sure that we cover our unhoused guests, making sure that we have food going to them. We want to thank our friends who have mobilized all their vehicles, our kitchens, our friend for Friends Who Run a City, and Scotty for cooking all this food and delivering it. They're taking care of our EMS brothers and sisters today. And so, yes, we need your help. The link is on the chat. Please think about giving, supporting. We're going to be launching a ticketing system here shortly, where if you are a driver and you want to volunteer, or if you need help, we can match you up. But yes, we do need back-end admin driver support so we can manage all these drivers and dispatch.
Thank you, Ruben. I appreciate that. And, certainly y'all understand that, everything's moving so fast and there's certain things that people just want to know right now. Councilmember Fuentes, I want you to jump back in, especially, I'm certain that you're hearing the same things. We are citywide, obviously, but in District 1 about water. People want to know about water right now. I unfortunately have not found that we have a concise specific answer. I'm hearing we just purchased a bunch of pallets of water. I'm hearing, I know Janice talked about the water monster briefly. We still don't have a solid answer. So I know folks are tired of hearing us talk about what we're working on. I wonder if you have any solid answers on your side, or should we just be letting people know right now we're working on it and we'll let you know hourly what the updates are. My team, I know, is working on it right now, working on a solid answer to put in these comments. But is there anything you'd like to say on the matter?
No, it's the same similar situation, Mayor Pro Tem. My team is actively working behind the scenes to see where we can set up additional water distribution sites, particularly leaning on the shelters that we have set up throughout the district. But like you, our community is demanding and needs solid, concrete answers. And so we'll be working, to get as much information out there as possible. And also, getting answers and solutions to the community so that folks know where to go for water and when the water will be fully restored.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was literally just getting a text about folks who need water.
And we just want to take a moment to also recognize a couple of organizations and collective coalitions that have been helping us. We Can, 10,000 Fearless, and Austin Justice Coalition, who are also working behind the scenes and mobilizing people. So it's all hands on deck. So if you want to help, you want to volunteer, and you have a vehicle that is safe to drive, and you want to be part of dispatch, please let us know. We'll help coordinate with that.
Thank you, Ruben. I appreciate it. And I think we're probably going to get going. I know a lot of the folks who need this information the most aren't able to watch it. So in a lot of ways, they're counting on us being able to offer them transcripts and really just the highlights. So we'll make sure that they get that information. The folks who were able to watch and are able to disseminate information, please feel free to do so. Keep popping these questions in the chat. Councilmember Fuentes, I think the D1, 2, and 4 staff are going to be on question and answer duty and getting this out to folks. So we'll just make sure to share that main document so all our constituents and community members know what the answers to these questions are. That's one of, I mean, from what I can tell so far, a lot of the questions are the same. So y'all, we're gonna get moving. Is there anything we need to remind folks as we take off other than, actually, you know what? I don't have, let me take a second. And in fact, Councilmember Fuentes, if you wanna drive the boat for a moment, I'm gonna take a second and pull up all the numbers for the shelters and all that jazz. So I'll let you take it over for a moment, Councilmember Fuentes.
And
It looks like Janice has a comment to make.
I do a couple things. One is on that page, Community Resilience Trust / CRT-CARES, which we're posting. You can find all the shelter information on there, including phone numbers, a number of resources. We'll be posting that soon through that page. So we'll have all the shelter information and the matching thing very soon through the Community Resilience Trust page, and then we'll come back and post the link in this chat as well to the new to the resource that we're offering. Second thing I just wanted to say is we forgot to mention We Can Now was another amazing group. 10,000 Fearless has been working incredibly hard. AJC. So there's so many organizations that we need to recognize that have sort of picked up the slack. Brave Communities, thank you, Gloria, have picked up the slack on where this gap has left us. And I just really want to acknowledge them. And I'm forgetting so many that I wish I wasn't doing.
I know the feeling. That's often why I refrain from naming, because it's like it's just as bad to forget the name, But no. That said, I think Ruben might have said it best, that this is a collective, collaborative effort. Members of our community, organizations, and otherwise, we're all in this together. And and the beauty about that kind of initiative and effort is that nobody's doing it for clout or recognition. They're doing it because it's got to be done. So I really appreciate that. I don't think anybody feels slighted. And so I did find that information, and unless there's anything else that y'all want to throw in here, Councilmember Fuentes, I want to give you an opportunity to speak directly to D2 constituents. I mean, they already know you're out here fighting hard, nonstop for them, but if there's anything else you want to share with them after we say adios to Ruben and Janice, if you'd like to take a few minutes to talk to your folks, that'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Janice, Community Resilience Trust, thank y'all for joining us. Something tells me we'll be in touch a lot. Thank you for everything y'all are working on as a part of the collective effort.
And thanks for joining us, both of you.
And thank you, community, for all the work and all the money we fundraise, and we need to continue fundraising more as we transition to the longer term strategy.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh, did we lose Councilmember Fuentes? Uh-oh. Well, it was my intention to let her speak directly to the D2 folks. Again, like I said, though, I know that they fully recognize that she's a champion, and they made a good decision with their leadership because she is representing for them well. She may rejoin us, but while we wait, I'll go ahead and just say, a few of the things that we need to remind y'all of. One, everything's rapidly developing. We know that. At this point, the main things that we should remember about our mandatory conservation orders across the city with water and the boiling notice, we really have to limit water use to the essential needs. We had Austin Energy on earlier talking about, the Austin Water folks on earlier talking about the appropriate way to boil and then otherwise utilize water. And no more dripping faucets. I think they made that really clear. Don't use your washing machines or dishwashers. Only the most critical, essential uses of water. I'm trying to think of, there's a phone number. I know the Community Resilience folks have, they offered their website for a spot where you can go and find out more about shelters. We also have, I'm hesitant to say this list because I don't know what happened with a couple of these. So I'm gonna hesitate to say the list on shelters and just make sure we put the most up to date information and phone numbers and everything in the comments, just so we make sure to get it absolutely right. It looks like we are not back on with Councilmember Fuentes. It's been an hour though, y'all, so I won't take up any more of your time. Hopefully you found some of this useful. We'll keep scouring, all available sources for up-to-date information. And thank y'all for tuning in for as long as you have. Keep taking care of one another. Stay safe, stay warm. And hopefully, we'll see one another safe and whole on the other side of this disaster.